It is a really worthwhile journey, and although these are completely valid, just try and remind yourself of why you're doing it and what you will gain from it in the long run. Hello everyone, if you're new here then hi, my name is Miss Paris, and on my channel I produce teacher related content such as tips, advice and information, as well as sharing my own personal teacher journey. So if you think that is something that would interest you, consider checking out my other videos and subscribing. So today's video is quite exciting. I have got a variety of PGCE related concerns and misconceptions that you guys have submitted to me, and I'm going to be addressing them, acknowledging them, and hopefully reassuring you. So I'm just going to get straight into the video. The first one is mentors can be mean. Now I think that's just with individual differences. You know, you could go to an office job and still have a colleague that's mean. Some might deliver feedback slightly different to others, but I don't think anyone is purposefully mean. You will just get a lot more constructive feedback that, you know, if you're one of those people that can take it personally, might find sometimes hard to digest, but I don't think any of them are purposefully mean. You know, if they are, for whatever reason, then definitely speak out to your SCITT provider or your uni about it, because that's not right. They're not meant to be mean to the point that, you know, you feel unsettled or worried or anything like that. So they could be mean, but they shouldn't be mean. Does that help? I don't know if that helps. Next one is money struggles because the course is so full on and having no time for a part-time job. So personally, I didn't have time for a part-time job. I know some people incredibly manage to juggle a part-time job. I guess it depends on the hours. It's definitely tricky, and obviously everyone's financial situation is different. Some people might have families and a mortgage, some people might be living at home. I do have a video on kind of money saving tips that you could use, but it definitely is a struggle. So I would recommend really considering this before ever entering a PGCE, because you need to make sure you are financially stable or you have some kind of support in place before you join. Of course you can get a maintenance loan, but then do remember that there is interest on this and you are expected to pay it back. So it's a hard one that I can't really reassure you with, because it can be a struggle. But yes, it's definitely something that you need to be aware of and really weigh out the pros and cons before starting your PGCE. The next worry, that it's the hardest year of your life, worries me because I'm not very academic. Now, the fact that you mentioned the academic side, I am assuming that you mean about the PGCE assignments. There's only about 3 or 4 in a year, and I realise that if you're not very academic this can seem really daunting, but you learn so much in the process, and you should have some kind of advisor or somebody that you should be able to turn to if you need any support. Your uni, I think even SCITT providers, like I was a SCITT provider but my PGCE was awarded by a uni, so you should have access to plenty of resources. If you start early on, which is a tip I recommend to everybody, start ASAP, because even then if you do like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, it will save you a lot of time in the long run. So, you know, if you take your time with it and you take your time to read and process the information, maybe plan out what you're going to do, plan out the body of your assignment and the main points you want to include, then it's definitely, you know, not worth completely panicking over. You've already done a bachelor's degree if you are doing a PGCE. Worst comes to the worst, you might fail your PGCE assignments, but you can still gain QTS, which is essentially what you need for your teaching degree. So that's really worst scenario. Another scenario is that you might pass at bachelor's level, which is also absolutely fine. It's still a qualification that you have gained. PGCE assignments are, you know, they're really useful for the master's credits if you want to continue afterwards, but if you don't plan on continuing a master's afterwards, please do not panic about it and put all your stress onto there, because it's just not worth it for your mental well-being as well as the overthinking side of things. Just please do not fret, and as always, you know, reach out for support if you need any. From my SCITT provider, they would always have like a day session on it where they would explain the title of the assignment and what it means and dissect it and give tips on critically analysing things. So hopefully yours will do something like that too. I don't know if it's a general expectation of SCITT providers and PGCE providers. Definitely please do not overthink too much and please do not panic. The next worry, which isn't really a misconception is the heavy workload. There is a heavy workload purely because it takes ages because we're not used to it, we haven't got into the habit, you know, it takes practice after all, and 2, because they expect to see proof that you can teach. So, you know, a lesson plan will, if you have to fill out a specific format, might be 3 pages long, whereas once you're an ECT, it might be a page long, or you might not even do one full stop. We've also got teacher standard evidence on top, and all of this is purely just to see that you are abiding by the teacher standards. So it is a heavy workload, but I promise you, once you get an ECT year, there are ways to reduce that workload. It's not as heavy, and actually even once you get further into your PGCE year, if you can kind of make an agreement with your mentor, sometimes you don't have to do all of those long lesson plans. They might just want to see it for your lesson observations, formal lesson observations, and put in your teaching evidence folders. Another thing about the teacher evidence folders, I made the mistake of leaving this to the last minute because I sucked at work-life balance, but if you kind of gather evidence here and there constantly, by the point that you need to submit it by, you've basically got it. So again, like an assignment, little bits at a time, then it will also reduce your workload in the long run, because you do not want the week before the deadline to suddenly be panicking and thinking, right, I've got all these lessons to do, I've got resources to make, things to print, and then I have to do my whole teacher standard evidence. There's also little tips along the way, like my video of 10 marking tips, little things you can do to try and reduce your workload or the time you spend on things. That will really help as well. Having no time on the weekend or after work for, and then Instagram cuts off the last word. Kind of similar answer to that. I try and promote work-life balance as much as possible, because I really don't think that I had a work-life balance during my PGCE. I would spend the whole weekend doing things to try and get ahead, so I would have more free evenings during the week, but then obviously, as you will learn, every single lesson needs to be adapted according to how the previous one went. So I would try and plan Monday, Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, but then by Monday I had to change Tuesday's lesson, and then obviously because Tuesday's changed I had to change Wednesday. So I would waste my whole, not waste, but I would spend my whole weekend and actually not use any of those things. I really try and promote like a good work-life balance, and tips and advice to help you guys along the way to avoid the mistakes that I made. Next one, that people didn't get on with their mentors. Now, this is always a possibility. I mean, you don't get on with everyone in life, but communication is really key. So again, kind of similar response to that, mentors can be mean one. If there are problems that you can't solve just talking to your mentor, or within the school, then definitely go to your SCITT and PGCE provider. But in terms of not getting on with your mentor, I don't know, I mean, that could always happen, but as long as you have one key person that you can go to within the school, even if it's your team teacher or the year 3 teacher when you're in year 2, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as you have somebody, they can be your rock and they can be your support. It's okay if your mentor doesn't add you on Facebook and you get friendly with them outside of the school hours. That's absolutely fine. I think it only becomes a problem if you think they are treating you unfairly, or they're not giving you fair feedback, or they are just putting their workload onto you, because that's not right and that shouldn't be happening. In terms of mentor meetings and things like that, to avoid, you know, wasting unnecessary time, I have done a video about ways that you can prepare your mentor meetings in advance to make sure things run smoothly and that it's a really effective use of time. That might also be useful if you don't get on with them, to avoid extra time with them that's not necessarily needed. I mean, you didn't hear that from me, but definitely check out that video if you are worried about anything mentor related. Next one, that you have to know all your knowledge. I'm scared I won't know the work. So please do not fret about that. I have said that multiple times as well. You are not expected, and you will not be able to know the full national curriculum. Okay, and if you are in, you know, quite a high year in primary school or in secondary school, there might be things that you don't know. The key thing is to be one step ahead, or 2, you know, even better, but at least one step ahead of the children. Because if you are on the same step, then it's difficult to teach them. If you're one step ahead, then you can always teach them what you already know. And I think people do get a good amount of notice on what the topic is going to be. So you might come in on the first week and they already tell you what you're going to do. So you can go home that night and just look up the Viking, or look up about specific maths terminology that you weren't sure of. Or, you know, if you know the year group, look through the whole national curriculum for that year and just identify or make note of any things you're not sure of, and do your research, okay? Because remember, only one step ahead of them. If you are worried about a certain topic, that's enough for you to help teach them the last step. Does that make sense? Honestly, you do not need to know the whole national curriculum. It's impossible, there's loads. Okay, next one, that you end up working 12 hours a day every day for 9 months. So I'm only briefly going to repeat myself, but like I said, you do have a heavy workload at the beginning, but it will, with practice and with good time management, getting into the habit of things, and also minimizing the amount of, let's say, lesson plans you have to do, or the quantity of the pages of a lesson plan you need to do, it will get quicker. So, you know, you won't be working 12 hours a day. You might leave school and you might do some hours afterwards, but, you know, please do not think that it is a solid 12 hours every single day. Some days you might be there until like 6, okay? But then others you might leave at 4. It really depends on what you have to do that week. If you've got several lessons that you're going to teach in a row, you probably are going to stay a bit longer. If you are just observing that week, or you've just done a lesson observation, it's highly unlikely until later on, when it's that 80% teaching time, that you're going to be there for 12 hours a day. Okay, next one, not securing a job after qualifying. Well, you guys know, if you have watched my channel for a while, that I have struggled with employment. I first had a PPA job because I didn't secure anywhere for September. Then I managed to secure somewhere in April until July, but that was a temporary position and it wasn't made permanent. And I'm currently still looking for vacancies for September. So it definitely can happen that you don't find a job straight away, but my biggest recommendation is to stay in a school setting in one capacity or another. So try and do supply with an agency, try and, even if you're a HLTA, you know, that's still fabulous experience, and you could always stay a few hours after school if you wanted to help the teacher plan, just so you're still kind of in the role and in the mindset of being a teacher. It's absolutely up to you, but I think it's difficult, especially with people's financial needs. We need a job, we need money, that's today's society. But if possible, try and stay in education. Even if you're tutoring, or you suddenly go to a nursery that's still working with children. So it might happen, but try and still stay in education in some form or another. What is expected from a PGCE student? Is it worth... And then it cuts off. Why does Instagram do that? What is expected from a PGCE student? So at the beginning of the year, you will just be kind of observing. A few weeks in, you'll start to teach lessons or plan lessons. Your teaching time will then become about 50%, and then at a certain point, which I apologise, I can't remember the month now, but it will then become 80% teaching time. You will be expected, like a normal teacher, to plan, teach, mark, assess. You might get involved in parents' meeting, after school clubs, you might get involved in school trips. All of that is absolutely fabulous experience. The expectations will be made clear to you by your SCITT provider or your uni, and any questions, you know, just ask them, or double check the information on their website as well if there's anything really specific. Oh, and of course, teacher standards, you need to show that you are meeting those. This is the last one. It says, I'm worried about stories of bad placements and being isolated from staff and having no work-life balance. So bad placements and being isolated from staff, I mean, that's an absolutely valid concern, but I think, and it might be difficult with COVID, so, you know, really make it kind of a priority for you, is to try and socialise as best as you can, build up that support network, ask questions. If you are planning a science lesson, go to the science lead and ask them maybe to double check your lesson plan, or give you feedback, talk to the head, try and talk to parents, keep that communication open, because that is teaching standard 8. Try and make, there's that expression, isn't there? It's like, make the best of it yourself, or something like that. So, you know, oh, it is what you make of it. That's the one. It is what you make of it. I mean, we've mentioned mentors before, but bad placements, I don't think there's any such thing as a bad placement unless they're super unsupportive. All children are different, demographics are different. You might train in a certain school and then your ECT year might be in a completely different school, but there's no such thing as like a bad placement. You should never feel overwhelmed by the actions of another person, if that makes sense. If you're lesson planning and you're doing this and you're doing that, that's kind of stress and work from the nature of the job. But if it's because a mentor is contacting you at 10 PM saying, oh, can you do this for tomorrow? That's not right. okay? And in that case, definitely talk to somebody. I think a lot of people's worries seem to stem around the possible interaction with their mentor, the placement and the workload, which is all completely valid. But honestly, you guys, like, if you have seen my cause for concern video, I received a cause for concern, and it was really hard work, but I managed to fight through it, and in the end I passed. Like, here I am. But it wasn't to say it wasn't tough, but every single journey has its challenges, has its ups and downs, and you guys are all capable of passing this with flying colours and becoming amazing teachers. If you manage to secure a place on your PGCE or your SCITT, they have seen potential from you super early on. So just imagine what you are going to do with support and practice. By the end of a year, you grow so much professionally. It is a really worthwhile journey, and although these are completely valid, and you know, you might end up having days where you cry in the evening, just try and remind yourself of why you're doing it and what you will gain from it in the long run. Okay, I hope that's reassured you and not like scared you. If you have any other questions or worries, please feel free to comment them down below. I also do offer a wellbeing chat, as you would have seen from a previous video, where I am happy to talk to you one-on-one about any concerns or worries you have, even if it's just for a listening ear when none of your friends or family come from an education background and they just don't understand what you're going through. I am more than happy to help. Just message me on Instagram at the Petite Primary for more information or more details. But anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with anyone that is maybe starting their PGCE soon, and don't forget to subscribe for more of that teacher related content. I'll see you soon. Bye!